Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted his tool belt one more time. The summer heat in downtown Chicago was brutal, and working on the 42nd floor of the Millennium Tower made it even worse. The air conditioning system had been acting up all week, and as the building's maintenance supervisor, it was his job to keep everything running smoothly. At 34 years old, Marcus had seen his fair share of challenges. 3 years ago, his world had turned upside down when his wife Sarah died in a car accident, leaving him to raise their 7-year-old daughter Emma alone. The insurance money had helped initially, but it was his steady job at the tower that kept them afloat. Every morning he would drop Emma off at school, work his shift, and pick her up in the evening. Their routine was simple, but it worked. The Millennium Tower was home to some of the wealthiest people in the city. Marcus had learned to move through the building like a ghost, fixing problems without disturbing the residents. He had master keys to every apartment, but he always knocked and announced himself. Respect was something he believed in, regardless of how much money someone had. On this particular Tuesday morning, Marcus received an unusual maintenance request. Apartment 4501, the penthouse suite, was reporting problems with their elevator access. The resident, Victoria Sterling, was apparently trapped inside her own home. Marcus had heard whispers about Ms. Sterling from other building staff. She was rumored to be worth billions, having inherited and expanded her father's tech empire. At 28, she was one of the youngest female billionaires in the country. Marcus had never actually seen Victoria Sterling in person. According to the other workers, she rarely left her penthouse and had everything delivered. Some said she was difficult and demanding, while others claimed she was just very private. Marcus didn't care much about gossip. He just wanted to fix the problem and get home to Emma. The elevator to the penthouse required a special key card, which Marcus had to get from building security. As he rode up to the 45th floor, he wondered what kind of person lived in a space that cost more than most people made in a lifetime. The elevator opened directly into a private lobby area, and Marcus could see the penthouse door at the end of a short hallway. He knocked firmly on the door. "Building maintenance, Ms. Sterling. I'm here about the elevator problem." There was a long pause before he heard a voice from the other side. "Thank goodness someone came. I've been stuck here since yesterday evening. The elevator won't respond to my key card at all." Marcus pulled out his diagnostic equipment and began checking the elevator controls in the penthouse lobby. The system was completely dead. It looked like a power surge had fried the main control board. This wasn't going to be a quick fix. "Ms. Sterling, I need to replace some major components. It's going to take several hours, maybe until tomorrow morning. Do you have another way out of here?" "No," came the voice through the door. "This is the only elevator that comes up here. There are emergency stairs, but they're locked from this side for security reasons." Marcus frowned. He had the keys to unlock the emergency stairs, but building policy required a security escort for any penthouse emergency access. Unfortunately, the head of security was at a conference in New York and wouldn't be back until Thursday. "Ms. Sterling, I can unlock the emergency stairs for you if it's truly an emergency. Do you have medical needs or urgent appointments?" There was another long pause. When Victoria finally answered, her voice sounded tired. "No medical emergency. I haven't been outside in 3 days and I'm starting to feel really anxious about being trapped." Something in her voice made Marcus stop what he was doing. It wasn't the demanding tone he had expected from a billionaire. She sounded genuinely scared and alone. "Tell you what," Marcus said. "I'm going to work on this elevator until I get it fixed. I've got sandwiches and coffee with me if you get hungry. We'll get you out of there." "You don't have to do that. You could just come back tomorrow." Marcus thought about Emma, who would be expecting him to pick her up from after-school care in a few hours, but he also thought about how he would feel if he were trapped alone in a confined space. Money couldn't fix everything. "I've got time," he said simply. Over the next few hours, Marcus worked steadily on the elevator controls, while occasionally chatting with Victoria through the door. He learned that she had been working from home for months, rarely leaving the penthouse except for essential business meetings. She asked about his life, and Marcus found himself talking about Emma and their daily routine. "She sounds like a wonderful daughter," Victoria said. You must be a good father. I try my best. It's not easy doing it alone, but she's worth everything. As the afternoon wore on, Marcus realized he needed parts that weren't in the building's supply room. He would have to order them, which meant Victoria would be stuck for at least another night. Miss Sterling, I hate to tell you this, but I need special components that won't arrive until tomorrow morning. I can have the emergency stairs unlocked by security if you really need to leave. Actually, Victoria said quietly, could you just stay and keep working? I know it sounds strange, but I feel safer knowing someone reliable is here. I'll pay you overtime, of course. Marcus thought about Emma again. He called the after-school program and arranged for his neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, to pick her up. Then he settled in for a long night of work. As evening approached, something unexpected happened. Victoria opened the door. Marcus looked up from his tools to see a young woman with long, dark hair and tired eyes. She was wearing simple jeans and a sweater, not at all what he had imagined a billionaire would look like. She looked normal, even vulnerable. I figured if you're going to be here all night fixing my problem, the least I can do is offer you some real food, she said, managing a small smile. Marcus stood up, suddenly aware of how dirty his work clothes were. You don't need to do that, Miss Sterling. Please call me Victoria. And yes, I do need to do that. When was the last time someone helped you just because it was the right thing to do? Marcus thought about it and realized he couldn't remember. Since Sarah's death, he had been the one helping everyone else, especially Emma. Come on, Victoria said, stepping back into her penthouse. Let me show you that billionaires can make decent spaghetti too. As Marcus followed her inside, he had no idea that this simple act of kindness was about to change both their lives forever. The penthouse was nothing like Marcus had expected. Instead of cold marble and expensive art, Victoria's home felt warm and lived in. Books were scattered on coffee tables. There were plants everywhere, and family photos lined the mantelpiece. The kitchen was large but cozy, with copper pots hanging from hooks and herbs growing in small pots on the windowsill. I know it's not very billionaire-like, Victoria said, noticing Marcus looking around. Most people expect something more like a museum. But I actually live here, you know? Marcus watched as she moved around the kitchen with practiced ease, boiling water for pasta and heating up homemade sauce from the refrigerator. Did you make this yourself? Cooking relaxes me, Victoria explained. When I took over my father's company, everyone assumed I'd hire a chef and personal assistants for everything. But I like doing normal things. It keeps me grounded. As Victoria cooked, Marcus learned more about her life. Her father had died when she was 25, leaving her a massive technology company that she barely understood. She had spent the last 3 years learning the business while dealing with board members who doubted her abilities because of her age and gender. The hardest part isn't the work, Victoria said, stirring the sauce. It's the loneliness. When you're responsible for thousands of jobs and billions of dollars, people treat you differently. Everyone wants something from you, or they're intimidated by you, or they assume you're spoiled and stupid. Marcus set the table using the simple dishes Victoria pointed to. Is that why you don't leave the penthouse much? Victoria nodded. It's easier to work from here. I can have video conferences and make decisions without dealing with all the stares and whispers. But lately I've been feeling like a prisoner in my own home. They sat down to eat as the sun set over the Chicago skyline. The spaghetti was excellent, and Marcus found himself relaxing for the first time in months. When was the last time he had eaten a meal that someone else had prepared for him? Tell me about Emma, Victoria said. What's she like? Marcus's face lit up immediately. She's amazing. Smart, funny, stubborn as anything. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up, because she says animals are easier to understand than people. She sounds wise. Victoria laughed. How do you manage work and raising her alone? It's not easy, Marcus admitted. Some days I feel like I'm failing at both. I want to give her everything, but there's only so much one person can do. I worry that she's missing out on things because it's just me. Victoria was quiet for a moment. My father raised me alone too after my mother died. I was about Emma's age. You want to know what I remember most about that time? Marcus nodded. Not the things we couldn't afford, or the fancy camps I didn't go to, or the fact that he sometimes had to work late. I remember him reading to me every night even when he was exhausted. I remember him teaching me to change a tire when I was 12 because he said I should never depend on anyone else to take care of me. I remember him believing in me when no one else did. She reached across the table and touched Marcus's hand, briefly. Emma is lucky to have you. Trust me on that. After dinner, Marcus went back to work on the elevator while Victoria sat in the lobby area with her laptop, handling business calls and emails. It was strange how comfortable they both felt with each other's presence. Marcus had expected Victoria to be demanding and impatient, but she was considerate and easy to talk to. Around midnight, Victoria brought him coffee and a sandwich. You don't have to keep feeding me, Marcus said, though he was grateful for the food. When was the last time someone took care of you? Victoria asked, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside his tools. Marcus paused in his work. I guess, not since Sarah died. I'm usually the one doing the taking care of. That's what I thought. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Are you happy? The question caught Marcus off guard. When was the last time someone had asked him that? I'm content, I guess. Emma's healthy and happy. We have a roof over our heads and food on the table. That's more than a lot of people have. That's not what I asked. Marcus stopped working and looked at her. Honestly, I don't think about happiness much anymore. I think about responsibility, about making sure Emma has what she needs. Some days are good. Some days are hard, but I just keep going. Victoria nodded slowly. I understand that feeling. After my father died, I stopped thinking about what I wanted and just focused on what needed to be done. But that's not really living, is it? They talked until 3 a.m. about their lives, their fears, and their dreams they had set aside. Marcus learned that Victoria had wanted to be a teacher before inheriting the company. Victoria learned that Marcus had once dreamed of starting his own construction business but had given up the idea after Sarah's death because it seemed too risky with a child to support. What if risk isn't always a bad thing? Victoria asked. What if playing it safe is actually the biggest risk of all? Easy to say when you have billions of dollars as a safety net, Marcus replied, but he wasn't being cruel. It was just an observation. You're right, Victoria said. I do have advantages you don't have, but I also have pressures you can't imagine. Every decision I make affects thousands of people. Every mistake gets analyzed by the media and the board of directors. In some ways, you have more freedom than I do. As dawn approached, Marcus finally got the elevator working. The new control board hummed to life, and the elevator car responded perfectly to commands. Well, Marcus said, packing up his tools, your prison sentence is officially over. Victoria stood in the doorway of her penthouse, looking uncertain. Marcus, I know this might sound strange, but would you like to have coffee sometime? I mean, when you're not fixing my elevator. Marcus hesitated. What did a billionaire and a maintenance worker have in common beyond one unusual night? But then, he remembered how genuine she had been, how she had listened to him talk about Emma without judgment, how she had made him feel like a person rather than just another service provider. I'd like that, he said. But I should warn you, my schedule is pretty limited with Emma and all. What if I came to you? Victoria suggested. I could meet you and Emma for lunch this weekend, somewhere normal, like a diner or something. I haven't been to a regular restaurant in years. Marcus thought about it. Emma would probably be curious about meeting someone new, but she was good with people, and something told him that Victoria Sterling wasn't like other wealthy people he had encountered in the building. There's a place called Murphy's Diner about 10 minutes from our apartment, Marcus said. Emma loves their pancakes. Saturday at noon? Victoria smiled, and Marcus realized it was the first genuine smile he had seen from her. It's a date. Well, not a date, but you know what I mean. As Marcus rode the elevator down to the main floor, he wondered what he was getting himself into. But for the first time in 3 years, he found himself looking forward to something that had nothing to do with work or Emma's schedule. Maybe Victoria had been right about taking risks after all. Saturday morning arrived with Emma bouncing on Marcus's bed at 7 a.m., full of excitement about meeting his friend from work. Marcus had explained that Victoria was someone he had helped at the building and that she was nice and wanted to meet Emma. He had deliberately left out the part about her being a billionaire. "What if she doesn't like me?" Emma asked as Marcus helped her pick out a dress for lunch. "Emma, sweetheart, everyone likes you. You're smart and funny and kind. Just be yourself, okay?" Murphy's Diner was exactly the kind of place Marcus had hoped Victoria would appreciate. It had been in the neighborhood for 50 years, with cracked leather booths, checkered floors, and a menu that hadn't changed since the 1980s. The coffee was strong, the portions were huge, and nobody cared if you lingered over your meal. Marcus and Emma arrived a few minutes early and got their usual booth by the window. Emma was fidgeting with excitement, looking at everyone who came through the door. When Victoria walked in at exactly noon, she looked so different from the tired woman Marcus had met in the penthouse that he almost didn't recognize her. She was wearing jeans, sneakers, and a simple blue sweater. Her hair was in a ponytail, and she had barely any makeup on. She looked young and nervous and completely normal. When she spotted them in the booth, her face broke into a relieved smile. "You must be Emma," Victoria said, sliding into the booth across from them. "I'm Victoria. Your dad told me you want to be a veterinarian." Emma nodded shyly at first, but within minutes she was chattering away about her favorite animals and the injured bird she had tried to rescue in their backyard. Victoria listened with genuine interest, asking questions and sharing stories about the pets she had owned as a child. "I always wanted a dog," Victoria said, "but my father traveled too much for business, and after he died I was too busy learning to run the company." "You could get one now," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Dogs are good for lonely people, that's what Mrs. Rodriguez says, and she has 3 of them." Marcus nearly choked on his coffee, but Victoria just laughed. "You know what, Emma? That's excellent advice." They ordered lunch, and Marcus watched in amazement as Victoria ate a cheeseburger and fries like she hadn't seen food in weeks. She caught him staring and grinned. "I usually eat salads and grilled chicken because that's what successful businesswomen are supposed to eat," she said. "But this is so much better." "Dad makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches," Emma announced, "and he tells really good bedtime stories. He makes up voices for all the characters." "Does he now?" Victoria looked at Marcus with amusement. "I'd love to hear one of those stories sometime." After lunch, Emma asked if Victoria wanted to see their apartment. Marcus started to object, embarrassed about their small 2-bedroom place, compared to Victoria's penthouse, but Victoria accepted immediately. "I'd love to see where you live," she said sincerely. Their apartment was clean but modest, filled with Emma's artwork, family photos, and hand-me-down furniture that Marcus had fixed up himself. Emma gave Victoria the full tour, showing her the reading nook Marcus had built in her bedroom and the herb garden they were growing on the kitchen windowsill. "This is beautiful," Victoria said, and Marcus could tell she meant it. "It feels like a real home." Emma dragged Victoria into her room to show her the dollhouse Marcus had built for her birthday. It was an elaborate Victorian mansion with working lights and handmade furniture. Victoria examined it carefully, clearly impressed by the craftsmanship. "Your father made this himself?" she asked Emma. "He's really good at building things," Emma said proudly. "He made my bookshelf too and the table in the kitchen, and he fixed Mrs. Rodriguez's front steps when they broke." Victoria looked at Marcus with new understanding. "You're quite talented." "It's just a hobby," Marcus said, feeling self-conscious. That evening, after Victoria had gone home, Emma was full of questions. "Is Victoria your girlfriend now?" she asked as Marcus tucked her into bed. "No, sweetheart. She's just a friend. We barely know each other. But you like her, right? You smiled more today than you usually do." Marcus paused. Had he really been that obvious? "She's a nice person, Emma, but her life is very different from ours." "Different how?" Marcus struggled to explain without getting into details about money and social classes that Emma wouldn't understand. "She has a very important job that takes up a lot of her time. She lives in a different world than we do." Emma considered this. "Seriously. But she liked our apartment. and she ate her whole cheeseburger, and she laughed at my jokes. She didn't seem different to me, from the mouths of babes, Marcus thought. Over the next few weeks, Victoria began texting Marcus regularly. She would send him photos of things she saw from her penthouse window, ask for advice about normal everyday problems, or just check in to see how Emma was doing. Marcus found himself looking forward to her messages more than he wanted to admit. One Thursday evening, Victoria called him, sounding panicked. "Marcus, I need help, and I don't know who else to call." "What's wrong?" "My board of directors is coming to my penthouse tomorrow morning for a meeting, and I just realized I don't have any food to offer them except cereal and leftover Chinese takeout. I know it sounds stupid, but these are important people, and I want to make a good impression." Marcus could hear the genuine distress in her voice. "Victoria, you could have any restaurant in the city cater a meeting like that." "I know, but it's too late to arrange something fancy, and honestly, I want to do this myself. I want them to see that I can handle details, that I'm not just some spoiled kid who inherited a company." "What time is your meeting?" 9 a.m. "I know it's asking too much, but could you maybe help me figure out what to do? I'll pay you for your time, of course." Marcus looked at Emma, who was doing homework at the kitchen table. "Tell you what, Emma and I will come over early tomorrow morning and help you put together a simple breakfast. Nothing fancy, just good food. You would do that? Really? That's what friends do, Victoria." The next morning, Marcus and Emma arrived at the penthouse at 6 a.m. with bags of groceries and a plan. While Marcus prepared fresh fruit, coffee, and homemade muffins, Victoria and Emma set the table with Victoria's good china. "Remember," Marcus told Victoria as the board members arrived, "confidence is everything. You belong here just as much as they do." The meeting went perfectly. The board members were impressed not just with the professional presentation Victoria gave, but with the thoughtful hospitality she showed them. After they left, Victoria collapsed on her couch with relief. "I couldn't have done that without you two," she said. "How can I thank you?" "You don't need to thank us," Marcus said. "But maybe next time you could give us a little more notice." Victoria laughed, but then she grew serious. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Would you ever consider doing work outside the building? I mean, carpentry and renovation work?" Marcus was puzzled. "I guess if I had the time." "Why?" Victoria hesitated. "I've been thinking about what you said, about wanting to start your own construction business. What if I told you I had some projects that might help you get started?" "Victoria, I can't take charity from you." "It wouldn't be charity. I need work done, and you're skilled and trustworthy. It would be a business arrangement." Marcus looked at Emma, who was playing with some blocks Victoria had bought for her visits. Starting his own business had always been a dream, but the risk had seemed too great. What if Victoria was offering him the chance to finally pursue that dream safely? "What kind of projects?" he asked carefully. Victoria's eyes lit up with excitement. "Well, for starters, I've been thinking about getting a dog." 3 weeks later, Marcus found himself in the most unusual situation of his career. He was building a custom doghouse on the roof garden of a 45-story penthouse, while a golden retriever puppy named Charlie chased Emma around the outdoor furniture. Victoria had adopted Charlie from a local rescue, and Emma had immediately declared herself his unofficial trainer. The doghouse project had started as a simple request, but had evolved into something much more elaborate when Victoria saw Marcus's initial sketches. "You know this is completely over the top for a doghouse, right?" Marcus said, putting the finishing touches on the miniature peaked roof. Victoria looked up from where she was sitting on a blanket with Emma, both of them covered in puppy kisses. "Charlie deserves the best, don't you, boy?" The past month had brought unexpected changes to all their lives. Victoria had been true to her word about business arrangements. After the doghouse, she had hired Marcus to renovate her home office, then to build custom shelving for her library. Each project paid well above market rate, and Marcus was beginning to see the possibility of leaving his building maintenance job. More importantly, the three of them had fallen into an easy routine. Victoria would often join Marcus and Emma for dinner after his work was finished, and on weekends they would explore the city together. Victoria was discovering Chicago through their eyes. visiting parks and museums and neighborhood festivals she had never bothered with before. "I have something to tell you both," Victoria said, as they sat on the penthouse balcony watching the sunset. Charlie was asleep in Emma's lap, and the city lights were beginning to twinkle below them. Marcus looked up from the tablet where he was sketching plans for Victoria's next project, a reading nook in her bedroom. "I've been thinking about making some changes to my life," Victoria continued. "Big changes." Emma perked up immediately. "Are you getting married?" Victoria laughed. "No, sweetheart. But I am thinking about stepping back from running my company day to day." Marcus set down his tablet. This was unexpected. "What do you mean?" "I've been talking to my board of directors about bringing in a CEO to handle operations while I move into more of a chairman role. I'd still be involved in major decisions, but I wouldn't have to spend 12 hours a day managing every detail." "Why would you do that?" Marcus asked. "I thought running the company was important to you." Victoria was quiet for a moment, watching Charlie sleep. "It is important. But so is having a life. These past few weeks with you and Emma have shown me what I've been missing. I want to have time for relationships, for hobbies, for spontaneous adventures. I want to be able to get a dog without worrying about my schedule, or learn to cook properly or read books that aren't about business." Emma sat up carefully, trying not to wake Charlie. "Does that mean you'll have more time to hang out with us?" "I hope so," Victoria said, smiling at her. "If your dad doesn't mind having me around so much." Marcus felt a flutter of something that might have been panic. Over the weeks, he had grown increasingly aware that his feelings for Victoria were becoming more complicated than friendship. But the gap between their worlds still seemed enormous, even if she was talking about changing her lifestyle. "Victoria," he said carefully, "you don't need to reorganize your entire life. If you're not happy, there are smaller changes you could make." "What if I don't want to make small changes?" Victoria asked quietly. "What if I want to make big ones?" That evening, after Emma had fallen asleep on Victoria's couch during a movie, Marcus carried her to the guest bedroom that Victoria had set up specifically for their visits. It had become a regular occurrence, these impromptu sleepovers that happened when they lost track of time. "She's getting really attached to you," Marcus said when he returned to the living room. Victoria was curled up in an armchair with Charlie sleeping across her feet. "I'm getting attached to her too, to both of you." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus sat down on the couch across from her, suddenly aware that they were alone and having a conversation that felt like it was heading somewhere significant. "Victoria, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. Is this real for you? This friendship? These feelings I think we're both having? Or am I just an interesting distraction from your regular life?" Victoria was quiet for so long that Marcus started to worry he had overstepped. Finally, she spoke. "Do you want to know what my life was like before I met you? I would wake up at 5 a.m., check global markets, attend video conferences, make decisions that affected thousands of people, attend more meetings, work until midnight, and then fall asleep reviewing reports. I did that every day for 3 years." She shifted Charlie gently and moved to sit on the couch next to Marcus. "I told myself I was honoring my father's legacy, that I was being responsible. But the truth is, I was hiding. It was easier to lose myself in work than to admit how lonely and lost I was." Victoria took Marcus's hand, and he was surprised by how natural it felt. "These past weeks with you and Emma have been the happiest I've been since my father died. When I'm with you, I remember who I used to be before I became Victoria Sterling, CEO. I remember that I like to laugh, that I enjoy simple things, that I actually have opinions about movies and food and whether dogs should sleep on the bed." "Charlie definitely thinks they should," Marcus said, trying to lighten the mood because the intensity of Victoria's words was making his heart race. "Marcus." Victoria turned to face him fully. "I'm not looking for a distraction. I'm looking for a life. A real life, with real people who care about me for reasons that have nothing to do with my bank account." "I do care about you," Marcus said quietly. "More than I probably should." "Why shouldn't you?" Marcus gestured around the penthouse. "Because this is your world, Victoria. Private elevators and rooftop gardens and board meetings. My world is after-school pickup and grocery store shopping, and worrying about whether I can afford Emma's summer camp. What if I told you I want your world more than I want mine? Before Marcus could answer, they heard Emma calling from the bedroom. Dad, I can't find my stuffed elephant. Marcus started to get up, but Victoria was already moving. I'll get it. I think she left it in the kitchen. As Marcus watched Victoria hurry off to comfort his daughter, he realized that maybe the question wasn't whether their worlds were compatible. Maybe the question was whether they were brave enough to build a new world together. When Victoria returned with the stuffed elephant and a sleepy Emma, she found Marcus still sitting on the couch. But something had changed in his expression. Everything okay? She asked after settling Emma back in bed. Victoria, Marcus said, when she returned to the living room. If you're serious about making big changes in your life, I want you to know that Emma and I will support whatever you decide. But I also need you to know that if this thing between us is going to be real, it has to be equal. I can't be your charity project, and you can't be my fairy godmother. Victoria sat down next to him again, closer this time. What are you saying? I'm saying that if we're going to do this, we do it as partners. Your money doesn't fix my problems, and my problems don't become your responsibility just because you can afford to solve them. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. You know what I hear when you say that? What? I hear someone who's ready to take a risk. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the main conference room of Sterling Technologies, wearing his best suit and holding a folder full of business proposals. He still couldn't quite believe he was here, about to pitch his construction company to Victoria's board of directors. The past months had been a whirlwind of changes for all of them. Victoria had stepped back from daily operations and hired an excellent CEO, allowing her to focus on strategic planning and the parts of business she actually enjoyed. Marcus had gradually reduced his hours at the building and begun taking on more independent projects, and Emma had started calling Victoria Aunt Vicky without anyone suggesting it. You ready for this? Victoria asked, appearing at his elbow. She was wearing a sharp business suit and had her hair pulled back in a professional bun, but Marcus could see the supportive smile she was trying to hide. As ready as I'll ever be, Marcus replied. Are you sure this is a good idea? Me pitching. To your board? Marcus, you've been doing excellent work for months now. Mrs. Chen loved what you did with her kitchen renovation. The Johnsons recommended you to 3 of their neighbors, and that office building project downtown came in under budget and ahead of schedule. You're ready for this. The board meeting was unlike anything Marcus had experienced. 12 people, in expensive suits, asking detailed questions about his business plan, his financing, his insurance, and his capacity to handle large projects. Victoria sat at the head of the table, asking questions as tough as anyone else's, giving him no special treatment. Mr. Williams, said the chief financial officer, Sterling Technologies has several properties that need significant renovation. We're talking about millions of dollars in contracts over the next 2 years. Why should we trust this level of work to someone who was fixing our elevators a year ago? Marcus had prepared for this question. Because I know your buildings better than any outside contractor could. I know where the problems are, I know the systems, and I know what works and what doesn't. But more than that, I care about quality in a way that big construction companies don't. When I finish a project, I still have to see it every day. My reputation is on the line in a very personal way. The questions continued for 2 hours. When Marcus finally left the conference room, he felt like he had been through a professional interrogation. Victoria caught up with him at the elevators. How do you think it went? She asked. Honestly, I think they're going to turn me down. The CFO looked like he thought I was your charity case. Victoria pressed the elevator button. Give them more credit than that. They wouldn't have spent 2 hours grilling you if they weren't seriously considering it. 3 days later, Marcus got the call. Sterling Technologies wanted to hire his company for a major renovation of their downtown office building. It was a 6-month project worth more money than Marcus had ever imagined earning. That evening, Victoria brought champagne to celebrate, but Marcus seemed distracted. What's wrong? She asked, as Emma played with Charlie in the living room. They were at Marcus's apartment, which had become their usual evening gathering place. "Victoria, I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Okay. Did you influence their decision? Did you tell the board to give me this contract?" Victoria set down her champagne glass and looked at him seriously. "No, Marcus. I didn't tell them to give you anything. But I also didn't pretend I don't know you." "What does that mean?" "It means that when they asked me about your work quality, I told them the truth. When they asked if I thought you could handle a big project, I said yes, based on what I've seen you accomplish. When they asked if I trusted you, I said absolutely." Marcus ran his hands through his hair. "But they know we're whatever we are?" "Yes, they know we're together. But Marcus, that board includes some of the smartest business people in Chicago. They didn't give you $1 million contract because you're dating me. They gave it to you because you convinced them you could do the job." Emma looked up from where she was teaching Charlie to shake hands. "Why does everyone look so serious? Aren't we celebrating?" Victoria and Marcus exchanged a look, and Victoria smiled. "You're right, sweetheart, we are celebrating. Your dad just got the biggest job of his career." That night, after Emma had gone to bed, Marcus and Victoria sat on his small balcony overlooking the neighborhood. It wasn't much compared to Victoria's penthouse view, but they both preferred it. The sounds of real life drifted up from the street below. Kids playing, music from someone's radio, the distant sound of the elevated train. "I have something else to tell you," Victoria said quietly. Marcus tensed. After everything that had happened, he wasn't sure he could handle more surprises. "I bought a house." "What kind of house?" "A normal house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. A backyard for Charlie. It's about 10 minutes from here in Emma's school district." Marcus stared at her. "You bought a house in my neighborhood?" "I bought a house in our neighborhood," Victoria corrected. "If you'll have me as a neighbor." "Victoria, you can't just uproot your entire life for us." "I'm not uprooting my life. I'm finally planting roots." Victoria took his hand. "Marcus, I love you. I love Emma. I love the life we've built together over these months. I want to make it official." Marcus felt his heart stop. "Official how?" Victoria laughed at his panicked expression. "Relax. I'm not proposing. Yet. I'm talking about moving in together, combining our families, making this real and permanent." "What? About your penthouse?" "I'll keep it for business meetings and events, but I want to live in a real house with a real family in a real neighborhood. I want Emma to be able to ride her bike to my house. I want Charlie to have a yard to run around in. I want to host barbecues and know my neighbors and help with the school fundraiser." Marcus was quiet for a long time, processing everything. Finally, he spoke. "Emma's going to lose her mind with excitement. Is that a yes?" "Victoria, are you absolutely sure about this? Because once we take this step, there's no going back to the way things were." "I don't want to go back," Victoria said firmly. "I want to go forward, with you and Emma and Charlie and whatever other adventures we find along the way." Marcus kissed her then, right there on his tiny balcony with the sounds of the city around them. When they broke apart, Victoria was grinning. "There's one more thing," she said. "What now?" "I want to invest in your construction company, as a silent partner. I want to help you grow it into something big enough to compete for major contracts all over the city." "Victoria, not because you need rescuing, and not because I want to control anything. Because I believe in you and because I want to be part of building something together." Marcus looked at this woman who had wandered into his life through a broken elevator and turned everything upside down in the best possible way. 6 months ago, he had been a single father just trying to get by. Now he had a thriving business, a house full of love and laughter, and a future that looked brighter than anything he had dared to imagine. "Partners?" Victoria asked, holding out her hand. "Partners," Marcus agreed, shaking it solemnly before pulling her close for another kiss. From inside the apartment, they could hear Emma talking to Charlie about all the tricks she was going to teach him in their new backyard. Neither Marcus nor Victoria had told her about the house yet, but Emma had always been good at figuring things out. "Think she knows?" Victoria whispered. Oh, she definitely knows, Marcus replied. She's probably already planning where to put the doghouse in the new yard. Good thing you're so good at building them. As they sat together under the stars, Marcus realized that sometimes the best things in life really did come when you least expected them. And sometimes, taking a risk on love was the safest thing you could do. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the backyard of their new house watching Emma and 3 of her friends chase Charlie around the swing set he had built last spring. Victoria was in the kitchen with several other parents, organizing snacks for Emma's 10th birthday party. The scene was beautifully, perfectly ordinary. William's construction had grown beyond Marcus's wildest dreams. With Victoria's investment and business guidance, he now employed 12 people and had contracts throughout Chicago. The Sterling Technologies renovation had led to 3 more major projects, and word of mouth had brought in steady residential work. Marcus had moved from struggling to pay bills to actually saving money for Emma's college fund, but the real transformation had been in their daily life. Victoria had sold her penthouse and moved into the house she had bought in their neighborhood. She worked from a home office most days, attended Emma's school events, and had become friends with the other parents in their circle. She still traveled for business occasionally, but she was usually home for dinner and bedtime stories. "Dad," Emma called from across the yard. "Come help us with the treasure hunt." Marcus grinned and jogged over to where Emma was explaining the rules to her friends. Victoria had organized an elaborate treasure hunt with clues hidden all around the house and yard. It was exactly the kind of thoughtful, creative touch that made Victoria such a wonderful stepmother figure to Emma. "The first clue is by the herb garden," Emma announced importantly. "Victoria and I planted it together last month." As the children scattered to search for clues, Marcus felt a hand slip into his. Victoria had come out of the house looking relaxed and happy in jeans and a t-shirt that said, "World's okayest dog mom." "How's the party going?" Marcus asked. "Perfect, although I think we bought too much cake." "There's no such thing as too much cake at a kid's birthday party." They watched the children run around the yard, shrieking with laughter as they discovered each new clue. Charlie bounded after them, barking enthusiastically at all the excitement. "Victoria," Marcus said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever miss it? The penthouse, the excitement of running a major corporation, the power." Victoria was quiet for a moment, considering the question seriously. "Sometimes I miss the intellectual challenge of running the company day to day. But I don't miss the isolation or the pressure or the feeling that my worth was tied to quarterly profits." She squeezed his hand. "Besides, I'm not exactly sitting around doing nothing. I'm on 3 nonprofit boards now. I'm mentoring young women entrepreneurs, and I'm learning that there are lots of ways to make a difference in the world." "And you're happy?" "Marcus, look around. I have a family, a home, friends, a dog who thinks I'm the center of the universe, and a business partner who happens to be the love of my life. I've never been happier." The treasure hunt ended with all the children finding the final prize, a large box hidden under the back porch that contained new books for each of them. Emma had specifically requested books instead of toys for her party favors, saying that reading was more important than stuff. "She gets that from you," Victoria told Marcus as they watched Emma help the younger children with their books. "Actually, I think she gets that from you. You're the one who's been reading with her every night." As the party wound down and parents came to collect their children, Marcus and Victoria worked together to clean up the yard. It was the kind of comfortable domestic routine they had fallen into over the months. Victoria loaded the dishwasher while Marcus put away the yard games. Emma fed Charlie and then collapsed on the couch, exhausted but happy. "Best birthday ever," she declared. "Even better than last year." Last year's birthday had been just Marcus and Emma, with a small cake and a quiet dinner at home. This year their house had been full of laughter and friends and love. "I'm glad you had fun, sweetheart," Marcus said, sitting down next to her on the couch. Victoria curled up on Emma's other side. "What was your favorite part?" "All of it," Emma said sleepily. "But especially that everyone got to meet you and see our house and play with Charlie. I liked showing everyone our family." Marcus and Victoria exchanged a look over Emma's head. "Our family. It was the first time Emma had used those words to describe the three of them together. "Emma," Victoria said gently, "can I ask you something?" "Mm-hmm. How would you feel if your dad and I got married?" Emma sat up suddenly, all traces of sleepiness gone. "Are you going to?" "We're thinking about it," Marcus said carefully. "But we wanted to know how you felt about the idea first." Emma looked back and forth between them with a serious expression. "Would Victoria be my stepmom?" "If you wanted me to be," Victoria said. "But I would never try to replace your mom. I would just be an extra person who loves you very much." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "And we would all keep living here together with Charlie?" "Yes," Marcus confirmed. "Nothing would really change except that Victoria and I would be married." "And maybe you could adopt me?" Emma asked Victoria hopefully. "So we would be a real family legally too." Victoria felt tears spring to her eyes. "I would love that more than anything in the world, Emma. If your dad says it's okay." Marcus pulled both his girls into a hug. "I think that's a wonderful idea." They spent the rest of the evening on the couch, making plans for a small wedding in their backyard and talking about all the adventures they wanted to have as an official family. Emma fell asleep between them, and Marcus carefully carried her to bed. When he returned to the living room, Victoria was standing at the window looking out at their backyard. The party decorations were still hanging from the trees, and Charlie was asleep in his favorite spot under the porch. "Having second thoughts?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Never," Victoria said firmly. "I was just thinking about how different my life is now compared to a year ago. A year ago, I was eating dinner alone in a penthouse, working until midnight and falling asleep to the sound of traffic. Tonight, I'm in a house full of love, planning a wedding and thinking about adopting a daughter." She turned in his arms to face him. "Marcus, you saved me. Not from being trapped in an elevator, but from being trapped in a life that wasn't really living." "You saved me too," Marcus replied. "You gave me back my dreams and showed me that taking risks could lead to something beautiful." "We saved each other," Victoria corrected. "And now we get to save Emma too, by giving her the kind of family every child deserves." As they stood together in their living room, surrounded by the evidence of Emma's birthday party and their shared life, Marcus marveled at how perfectly imperfect everything was. The house wasn't a mansion, their life wasn't glamorous, and they still had challenges to face. But they had each other, and they had love, and they had built something real and lasting together. 6 months later, Victoria Sterling became Victoria Williams in a ceremony in their backyard, with Emma as the maid of honor and Charlie as the ring bearer. The guest list included building maintenance workers and Billionaire board members, neighbors and business associates, all celebrating the love story that had started with a broken elevator and led to a beautifully ordinary life. And they all lived happily, normally, wonderfully ever after.